Before we start this video, I want to ask you a few questions. Are you financially responsible? Do you have any hobbies? Do you hang out with your friends? Have you ever watched Confessions of Shopaholic? If you answer yes or no to any of these questions, then this video is for you. Hello bratties! I'm Odjuani and welcome back to the Spoiled channel. Growing up, I used to watch Confessions of a Shopaholic non-stop, and it wasn't a movie that a lot of my friends knew about, except for me and my mom that used to watch it with me. So imagine my surprise when I realized that it was actually a box office success despite being panned by critics from left to right. And I was also shocked to know that it was actually based on a book series named The Secret Dream World of a Shopaholic, aka Confessions of Shopaholic, and that a lot of people loved it. Since this year is the film's 15th anniversary, I decided to watch it again after not watching it for a long time, and guess what? The film still hits. It's a good adaptation, it's a great rom-com, and the message still is relevant to this day, and I'm here to defend it. The Shopaholic novel series was written by Sophie Kinsella, a British author who has published around 40 books, with some of them under her real name, Madeline Wickham. The Shopaholic novels have a total of 10 editions, the first one being published in the year 2000 and the last one in 2019. The series fit that chick lit genre that was quite popular back in the 90s and 2000s. Chick lits are novels written by women for women. The term now has been outdated, as publishing houses prefer to place these books under the romance or romantic comedy sections. The term chick lit doesn't have a single origin story, but it was popularized in America in the mid-90s. And it's believed to be created from the counterpart, lat lit, British term used to describe literature for men, by men, and it focuses more on the emotional side of men. Chick lits and chick flicks also share the same elements when it comes to the plot, and especially the ones from the 90s/2000s. The plot follows a young female lead in her 20s or 30s. She's white, heterosexual, middle class, dealing with her career life and dating life. It's often humorous, written first person, and is set in a post-feminist modern world. The protagonist lives in a big city with a cosmopolitan lifestyle. The book covers are often pink and they have this cartoonish illustration. Sometimes it's a heel or bags or makeup, etc. The most popular and definitive chick lits coming out from the 2000s were Bridget Jones' Diary, followed by the famous ones such as Sex and the City, Confessions of Shopaholic, The Nanny Diaries, In Her Shoes, and The Devil Wears Prada, all of which gained movie adaptations later on. Interesting, huh? I see chick flicks more of an escapist side of literature, but that doesn't mean that they're not flawed. They lack diversity, inclusion, and also they're often perpetuating stereotypes. Funny enough though, even though the most popular chick flicks had, the middle class heterosexual white woman as their main protagonist, the first book that can actually be deemed as the starting point of the trend of chick lits back in the 90s was written by a black woman. The extremely successful novel Waiting to Exhale by Terry McKillen from 1992 talks about 4 professionally successful friends and their relationships. It predates the chick lit trend, but it was noticed that this would be just a start for modern women-focused romance novels written by women themselves. Journalist Carolyn C. said this in her book review for the Los Angeles Times in 1992. It's inappropriate to compare Terry McMillan's third novel, Waiting to Exhale, to the works of other contemporary black women writers, like Alice Walker, Toni Morrison, Bebe Moore Campbell. This work isn't lofty, luminous, or particularly brilliant. It also isn't right to stick Macmillan in a box with elegant black guy writers, like charming Charles Johnson or grouchy Ismael Reed. Macmillan's new work is part of another genre entirely. So new, it doesn't really have a name yet. This genre has to do with women, triumph, revenge, comradeship. We can't also deny that chiclets in general have been marginalized since day one. This double standard is also pointed out by Jessica Gross, hopefully I'm pronouncing her name right. In her article, I Wrote a Chicklet Novel and I'm Proud of It, in 2012, she said, "To be clear, I don't expect my book to garner anywhere near friends and level attention. We're not in the same stratosphere. But to compare apples to apples, why, for instance, was a series like Twilight so much more critically derided than Stieg Larsson's Millennium Trilogy? Both sets are huge bestsellers, and both are horribly written, unless you like elaborate, repetitive descriptions of sandwiches. But Larsson's were never painted as embarrassing, pathetic props for bored housewives or their husbands. Larsson's were sneered at by the critical class the way that popular books in women-specific genres tend to be. Sophie Kinsella herself doesn't like the chicklet label that her books got.
You know what? Am I writing only for chicks? No, I'm writing for anybody with a sense of humour, a desire to be entertained, anyone who enjoys to escape. And I know I have a lot of male readers, and I'm not really one for labels anyway. I think I write fiction. That's it. I once saw my work described as wit-lit, and I rather love that.
Oh my god, this is actually hot in here. Sorry about that. And back to the video. So back to our main topic, Confessions of a Shopaholic. Sophie Kinsella wrote her first novel, The Tennis Party, under her real name, Madeline Wickham, while she was working as a financial journalist. In her official website, she tells us how she eventually came up with the story of Rebecca Boomwood, the financial journalist with a shopping addiction. She says, "I was first inspired to create Becky when I was in the shop. Believe it or not, I was out shopping and had the sudden image of a girl opening her Visa bill. I could just imagine all these emotions we go through. The shock, the anger, the denial. I could instantly see the funny side of shopping, and I couldn't believe that nobody had written about shopping before. I almost raced home to start writing this character and her adventures and the way we all think when we shop." But what exactly is a shopaholic? According to an article written by professor and psychologist Elizabeth Hartney, shopping addiction or compulsive buying disorder named Odjuani is a behavioral addiction that involves compulsive buying as a way to feel good and avoid negative feelings, such as anxiety and depression. Almost everyone shops to some degree, but only about 6% of the US population is thought to have a shopping addiction. Although widespread consumerism has escalated recently, shopping addiction is not a new disorder. It was recognized as far as back in the early 19th century, and was cited as a psychiatric disorder in the early 20th century. The article also mentions the symptoms of this disorder: purchasing things you don't need, lying about things you have bought, hiding your purchases, shopping when you're stressed or sad, being unable to stop your impulsive shopping, always thinking about things you plan to purchase, feeling sad after you purchase something, etc. And Rebecca Boomwood does all of these things. Even I did some of this myself. So for this video, I obviously did not read all of the 10 editions of Confessions of a Shopaholic. Not because I didn't want to, but because, trust me, if I had time, I would. But since the movie only adapts the first and the second book, which are Confessions of a Shopaholic and Shopaholic Takes Manhattan, so obviously I felt that it was only logical to read the two of them. So there will be spoilers for the books though. You have been warned. And what can I say? I love the books. Like, I love it. Like, no wonder they were successful. They're funny, it's just like reading. I laughed, I cried
a number of times, I sweat, I danced.
I had a great time. I love Becky Bloom. She's unhinged though. First book introduced Becky Bloom living her life in London in an apartment that she shares with her best friend Suze. She goes through hilarious situations that she finds herself in due to her shopping addiction that leads her to lie all the time. Some of the chapters in the book come with a letter either from the bank or a store asking her to pay her bills. Most of these letters are from Derek Smith, which in the books he is a super nice character. Like, in the movie he's really like basically he's a villain. But yeah, I thought it was a really creative plot device. The book also introduced Luke Brandon, Becky's love interest, and Alicia, her nemesis, as well as Graham and Jane, Becky's fun-loving parents, and her parents' friends and neighbors, Janice and Martin, which are very important to the plot in the first book. After some funny and tragic situations that Becky goes through, she eventually puts Janice and Martin in a rough position, and it's all due to a bad advice that she gives them about a sketchy bank, and she has to fix this by exposing the bank. That leads her to write an article exposing the bank, and she eventually goes into a TV show to expose the shady, sketchy bank, and which leads her to get a segment on TV where she gives financial advice. So the salary that she gets from this new job, she's able to pay her debts. Oh, and she and Luke start dating. In the second book, she and Luke go to New York and plans on moving there, but then stuff happens and she's the one exposed. She's the one who got exposed by giving financial advice and also being a shopaholic, and she gets fired and everything goes down. So that's basically the plot of both books in a nutshell. So as you can tell, the plot of the books and the movie are, you know, very different. They kind of mesh the first one and the second one together, resulting in the film. And I thought they did a really good adaptation. Now I'm gonna tell you the differences between the books and the film. In the book, Becky is a brunette with green eyes and Suze is a blonde. In the movie, Becky's a redhead with brown eyes and Suze is actually a brunette. In the book, Becky already works a successful saving and she dreams of becoming a TV host. In the movie, she works at a gardening magazine and she wants to work at a fashion magazine called Alette. In the book, Suze and Tarkin are distant cousins, also eventually date. Suze and Tarkin in the movie are not cousins and they're getting married. In the books, Luke has his own PR firm called Random Communications. In the movie, he is a journalist and editor-in-chief at Successful Safe. In the books, Alicia is not only Becky's nemesis, but she's also Luke's assistant at Brandon Communications. In the movie, she works at Alette, and she's also Becky's nemesis. She's awful in both adaptations. In the book, the famous Danny and George scarf is actually blue in gray, detailed with rare blue beads on it. In the movie, it's actually a green pleated Dolce & Gabbana scarf. So by reading the books, I understood that Becky's journey is about finding self-worth. Ironically, she values things, and in the end, she is the one who wants to be valued herself. And that's her problem. She replaces her lack of self-worth with materialistic things. This is what she says in the book when she's about to buy her famous Danny and George scarf. There is no question, I have to have the scarf. I have to have it. It makes my eyes look bigger. It makes my haircut look more expensive. It makes me look like a different person. I'll be able to wear it with everything. People will refer to me as the girl in the Danny and George scarf. This only shows that by owning this scarf, she won't be herself anymore. She'll be someone else better than herself. She also says stuff like this: God, I love new clothes. If everyone could just wear new clothes every day, I reckon depression wouldn't exist anymore.
Oh, that's no.
In the sense that, you know...
It's in the end that she gains confidence when she's working hard to expose the sketchy bank. This is what she says: today what I'm doing is important, and I do want to be taken seriously. I'll show Alicia, I think fiercely. I'll show them all, Luke Brandon included. Show them that I, Rebecca Bloomwood, am not a joke. At this point where she doesn't want to be known as the girl in the Danny and George scarf, she wants to be known as Rebecca Bloomwood herself. She's mesmerized by her byline once the article is out, and she doesn't care what anyone else thinks. Her confidence is finally boosted and she finally believes in herself. What kind of family have I got that are more interested in curtains than a top financial journalist? Anyway, I don't care. I'm mesmerized by my byline, by Rebecca Bloomwood. By Rebecca Bloomwood. In the second book, for instance, she gains her confidence by owning up to her mistakes, taking responsibility with the big sale and paying off her debt and standing up for herself by admitting that she had gotten into debt after being exposed on the news. And the movie understands that perfectly. That's what a good adaptation does. It understands its original source rather than just copy-pastes it. I mean, it's not something hard to adapt, but the movie does its job in such a great and fun way that it only levels up the message of the story. In the film we have a glimpse of Becky's childhood where she's being laughed at because her mom didn't get her trendy shoes that lasted 3 weeks, but brown shoes that lasted forever. Then we see her as an adult saying that she feels confident, alive, and happy when she shops. Or if she gets this job, she'll be happy forever. Or when she says,
because when I shop, the world gets better. The world is better. And then it's not anymore. And I need to do it again.
And it's only when she loses the guy who loves her and believes in her, her supportive friend, and everything else, is when she realized that they were some of the most valuable things that she ever had. And by rejecting the job that she always wanted, going to Shopaholics Anonymous, and selling all the stuff that she had, is when she realizes that she should value the things that she already owned, especially who she is. She finally overcame her childhood insecurities and she's able to be happy and value her self-worth. See how the book and the film basically told us the same story but in a different way? And yet, this message still hits.
He's like my Chloe shoes, Betsy bag, oh he's cute. He's my Marc Jacobs chain, Prada chain, what's his name?
Like I said, the film understands its source material and it does it in a fun way. It has all the qualities of 2000s rom-coms and rom-coms in general, and we gotta give it some credit. The novel is set in London, the movie changed it to New York to connect with an American audience, following the success of Sex and the City, the movie, and every rom-com that came before setting the Big Apple. New York City was seen as a selling point to female audiences. Set in New York or not, if you ever read the books, I think we can all agree that the casting was perfect for each and every character. I mean, Isla Fisher does a great job in cute and funny Becky Bloom, Kristen Ritter, and Hugh Dancy as Luke Brandon. Excuse me? I mean, Luke is described as this great, good-looking guy, but I was like, we were not expecting Hugh Dancy. And the chemistry. Okay, every rom-com needs to have a great romantic lead with great chemistry. And here, we have it. The scientists were there and they verified that chemistry exists in this book. I mean, in this movie. The way the film builds up their romance is done really well. Luke believes in Becky's potential as a writer, and Becky also learns to admire his passion for journalism. Not only they're both journalists, they also speak Prada.
Colorful.
This is my bridesmaid's dress.
Please, how many of us have used that one before? Okay.
And the fashion. We know, we gotta talk about the fashion here. You know, costume design was done by Patricia Field, and if you know Patricia Field, you know that this film screams Patricia Field. It has extravagant and colorful outfits. It's basically her signature. Patricia was the costume designer for films and TV shows such as Sex and the City, The Devil Wears Prada, Ugly Betty, and more recently, Emily in Paris. Becky wears a lot of designer clothes, but most of them are not designer. Patricia Field revealed that she bought a lot of them at a mall in Tokyo. Since the movie is set during the winter time, we see a lot of winter clothes. Scarves, gloves, and boots. We also have Becky's best friend, Suze, having a Williamsburg girl style, which Patricia refers as the young, artistic and aspirational look of young women in New York who have moved across the bridge to Brooklyn because of the expense of living in Manhattan. Williamsburg girls have a distinct style which reflects young people with a limited budget, which is interesting to me because Suze, both in the books and in the movie, is quite wealthy. She comes from a wealthy family. So I guess Patricia maybe got inspired by the artistic side of a Williamsburg girl. One thing I noticed about Becky's outfit is how she gets more casual throughout the end because she's letting go of her past shopaholic lifestyles. Her clothes get less and less extravagant, and which makes sense. Yet they're still colorful though. They're still colorful, but you know, a bit toned down. Even her last outfits actually borrowed from her best friend, Sue.
He's been following me around pretending to be a debt collector.
I was once stalked by a dog.
So I'm re-recording the footage that got lost while I was editing. It's literally a week after, so I had, you know, thrown out the 2 bags that were here before. This video is gonna be a little bit of a mess, but I promise you, it's worth it. I'm new to this whole video essay thing, so please, please forgive me and trust me, please. Now, the film does a great job of creating a unique way to sell itself and stand out as a rom-com. Directed by P.J. Hogan, famous for films such as Muriel's Wedding and My Best Friend's Wedding, the film has bright colors, the humor brought from the books, and the comedy created for the film itself, and the fun of sound effects and all the work to embrace Becky's fun and magic shopaholic world. But the main highlight of the film might be the mannequins. One review on Letterboxd points out their importance in the film. Becky has no control over her wants. It's the drugs doing the talking. Except this time, the drugs are Gucci and Prada. Look no further for proof of how the film uses the mannequins if you don't believe me. At first, I thought they were just an unnecessary and tonally dissonant, surrealistic gag, but it's clear that they are there to show how the objects have projected a gaze onto Becky, rendering her weak to the allure of the objects, which look so beautiful behind the frame of the shop window. It gives the film a very unique perspective on materialism. But not everything in the film is perfect though. I feel like the weakest point of the film is its editing. At times it felt a bit rushed and they didn't have like no breathing time for me. I feel like one example of that is Becky and Luke's first kiss. I was loving the scene until they kiss and it quickly changed to another scene. Like, I kind of hope that we, you know, fell in love with them, kind of, you know, we kind of kiss with them. I don't know, okay, maybe that sounds creepy, but you know what I mean? Like, breathe with the kiss, like, wow, finally. But no, it just quickly changed to another scene and boom, like it was a slideshow. Also, I have the DVD and had deleted scenes from the film. All of them were hilarious, I loved them. The kiss one had an alternative scene. Basically, the drunk lady kisses Luke, but I get why they decided to delete these scenes. Some of them didn't really add much to the plot, and one of them is way too long. So yeah, I get why they decided to delete them. Although the film has its weak editing and rushed scenes, I feel like it compensates with having fun with the audience and delivering a very relatable story, especially nowadays.
Entä sulla?
Men like you are the reason I left Finland.
We might not be all shopaholics, but we still relate to Becky to some degree. I mean, we all shop. We're all looking for self-worth in our lives through materialism. More specifically, when we're young and we're just entering our adulthood. Just like Becky was, she was just fresh out of college. She was just getting her first few jobs, and we have that pressure to have things together. That if we don't have this, we don't have that car. If we don't have that house, if we don't have that job, we feel like we're not worthy anymore. We have no value. And that's okay, because some of these things that we actually want are basic needs, like housing. It only becomes a problem when we put way too much value on things to compensate for our insecurities, and we weaponize it and shame others for not doing the same. As professor and psychologist Elizabeth Hartney says, we are surrounded by advertising that tell us that buying will make us happy. We're encouraged by politicians to spend as a way of boosting the economy, and for some of us, there is an allure of wanting what everyone else seems to have. The consumerism, by our own intentions or not, or some combination, has become a measure of social worth. I mean, look at what this Stanley Cup craze caused.
This is the cup that we got our daughter for Christmas. This is not a Stanley. This is a $9.98 Walmart cup that she said she thought was cute. She is 9 years old. On the second day back to school after Christmas break, she comes home. She's not crying, she's just upset. The girls, all the other girls in her grade, I'm not saying all, maybe she said 9, 10 of them, all got Stanleys for Christmas. And they made sure to let her know that this is not a real Stanley, that this is fake and it's not as cool.
Does that seem familiar to you? It's exactly what happened to Becky, because she got the brown shoes instead of the sparkly ones and got laughed at by the other girls. And it's only a matter of time until the next big thing comes. It will be shamed for not hopping to the trend, and it becomes a cycle that never ends.
Now, peer pressure has been a thing since forever. It's not new. In every generation, every era, there is some type of middle class status symbol that people seek to acquire. And for this era, it's the Stanley Cup. I completely understand that 9-year-olds may not always have the capacity to stand up for themselves or resist against social pressures. However, I don't think the right call was Dana buying her daughter a $35 tumbler for her daughter to go impress girls that obviously don't like her. They only like what she has. And this is not to mom shame Dana. Obviously, she did what she thought was best for her kid, and I believe many parents would do the same. I'm just concerned about the precedent that this is going to set going forward. At some point, you are going to have to teach your kids to not fall victim to peer pressure and not jump off a bridge because everybody else does it. So many adults are in debt for keeping up with the Joneses, and they think that they're winning because they're getting social currency. However, the only thing that they're gaining is a false sense of community, because as soon as the next trend comes, that community is going to move on to the next thing. Which is why I think it's so important to teach your kids to be individuals and to have confidence in themselves, because you will go broke and be miserable trying to keep up with other people because it doesn't really make you happy in the end at all.
And then we have to question if we are the ones who push this message of if we have this or that, we are better than you, or is it just capitalism's fault? Obviously, capitalism profits off of insecurities in general, especially on women, and advertising always selling us this idea of luxury being pretty much accessible to everyone, but we have to hold ourselves accountable to some degree when we're participating in this over-consumerism culture. Look at how Becky's parents were always saving money and how she dreamed of having the finest things as a kid, and then we see her truly grow once she refuses to get into Outlet because they didn't care to sell that idea that luxury is affordable even if it's not. Aspirational influencers are all over social media, flexing their extreme amount of wealth and promoting overconsumption. And brands are engaging with it, most of them sending tons of PR packages to them.
I have no idea what's in any of these. 2 months worth of PR packages.
This is no hate to that creator, but like, what are we doing as a society that this is normal?
We also have some influencers causing outrage for allegedly overpricing their own products. And I understand that at the end of the day, we gotta make some money. Trust me, when I get the bag, those vintage archivals better be waiting for me because I'm gonna get them all. But we have to ask ourselves to what end we're doing all of this over consumerism. Why are we all acting like Rebecca Bloom would? I'm gonna use myself as an example of this because I'm currently unemployed.
You don't have the income coming in anymore.
Oh my goodness. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. And not only do I have bills to pay, I also have to pay for the stuff that I overconsume when I had a job. So yeah, call me Rebecca Bloomwood. And this film got me thinking why I got into this overconsumerism thing. Just like Becky, I was just entering, well, I still am entering my adulthood. And now that I have buying power, that I have my own credit card, that I had my own money, I was able to buy whatever I wanted. So just like Becky, I had a credit card and an inner child to heal. But the thing is, the inner child didn't get healed. I mean, he got healed for a second, and then it still needed to be healed again, and again, and again, and again. So that only got me into debt, not into healing. And I mean, granted, I didn't buy just stuff to heal my inner child. I did buy things to express my art and, you know, and get into content creation like lights, camera, and microphone. But still, I should have been more responsible with my money, just like Becky should have been responsible with her money too. Now, would I be more financially responsible if I had a hobby, you might say, or something other than just going into work and going home? Maybe. I would like to think so. The current state of the world, where third places are now gone, and for reference, the first place is your home, the second is your work/job, and the third is a place where you hang out with your friends. And now there are only third places, the internet, we're encouraged to spend on things so that way we can compensate for a lack of social interaction. That's why we see 12-year-olds allegedly destroying Sephora. They don't have anywhere else to go, and neither do we. Becky herself didn't have any hobbies either, and that's evident both in the books and in the movie. She went to work and then straight to a store to shop for something. In the second book, Shopaholic Manhattan, Becky's asked if she has any hobbies by Luke's mother, and this is what she answers. I open my mouth and close it again. My mind's gone completely blank. Come on, I must have some hobbies. What do I do on the weekends? What do I do to relax? Well, this is completely ridiculous. There must be things in my life other than shopping. And then she struggles to come up with something and she lies about it. And hey, I would do the same, honestly, because I don't have any hobbies either. Now, the film's ending was altered since it was released during the time of recession in the US. And I believe the alternate ending is that one scene during the credits where she's with her friends and having a party, launching Luke's magazine. Because if we didn't have that final credit scene, we probably would the message would probably get lost, right? We would just see her kissing Luke, getting her rich boyfriend, kissing him, and then gazing at the shop window, and then we would just assume that she was, you know, hey, I have a rich boyfriend now, my addiction's gonna come back. Thankfully, that didn't happen, and thankfully we had the alternate ending, because she reveals that now she had let go of her shopping addiction, and we can finally see that she made new friends and even had time to get a hobby where she actually learned Finnish. And I love that. I mean, let's be honest, she might still shop eventually, but she's not an addict anymore. And she has a network of friends and a guy who was supportive of her and a family that loves her. So that will keep her from, you know, getting to addiction again. You can argue that the film doesn't really have too much weight on the conversation about the complexities of capitalism and how we are all victims of it. And you're right, but the film never really intended to do that, and neither did Sophie Kinsella as well. I mean, 15 years later, we're still able to have a pretty relevant conversation about it, right? In conclusion, Confessions of a Shopaholic might seem like another chick flick based on a chick lit, but it's not. It's more than that. It's a film that has real value. The film understands its source material, resulting into a great adaptation. It succeeds at being a romantic comedy with its unique and fun style, and it delivers a message that is relevant to this day, that self-worth cannot be bought. And if you try to, it will only lead you to overconsumerism and not self-fulfillment. In a world where trends come and go faster than ever, influencers and brands promoting consumerism like crazy, and the lack of third places, it all only leads us to try to overconsume things in order to try to find the right answer that will help us cope with this craziness and everything. When we only should be asking these questions: when does this all stop? And when do we stop owning our things and they start to own us? Well, while I don't have the answer to these questions, I can try to give you some suggestions that I'll take it myself as well to try to stop us from participating into this overconsumerism culture that we're living in today. First, be financially responsible, invest your time in a hobby, hang out with your friends, and actually invest into real and human connection. And watch Confessions of a Shopaholic if you can. Like I said, it's a great movie. Well, that's all I have for today. Thank you so much for watching this video. I know it was a bit of a mess, but yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Take care, and bye bye. What do y'all think of my outfit today? It's giving pretty much Patricia Field. It is giving costume design by Patricia Field, by Pat Field, like us friends call her. Like design by the great Pat Field. It's also giving Cruella de Vil. I don't know. It is giving Becky Bloom as well. Put the line on the coconut, you put the line on the coconut, you put the line on the coconut.